The palace of Athelion floated above the pale blue clouds of the kingdom's upper atmosphere, suspended by ancient engines no human had ever seen before. The alien queen, known across the stars for her unmatched command and calm authority, walked through the grand hall as the soft glow of crystal lanterns followed her steps. Her people bowed with respect, but today her mind drifted to the one presence she could not fully understand. The human she had chosen to marry. His name was Aran, a simple name that seemed almost too small for the weight he carried. He did not come from a royal line or a warrior clan. He arrived on Athelion as a diplomat's assistant during a peace exchange. The moment she met him, she felt an odd sense of steadiness in him, a quiet strength that her advisors warned her was common among humans. They said humans adapted fast, learned fast, fought hard, and survived even harder. She married him for peace between their worlds, expecting nothing more than a symbolic union. For months Aran behaved as a polite guest in a world far beyond his own. He walked through the palace with humility. He spoke little. He made no demands. He did not ask for power or wealth. He did not engage in the political games of the court. He seemed content to remain near the gardens, walking among the glowing trees and silver flowers. The courtiers whispered that the queen had married someone with no ambition, no bite, no edge. They claimed a human was too fragile for palace life, but the queen sensed something guarded in Aran, something calm, something he had placed behind unseen walls. She often wondered what he had been before peace carried him here. She often wondered what he hid behind his gentle smile. She asked him once if he missed his home. Aran smiled lightly and said he missed the sunrise on the horizon line of his world. He spoke of a past that sounded simple. He said he once lived near tall grasslands and walked alone each morning to watch the sunrise. Nothing in his voice suggested greatness or danger. Nothing, he said, hinted at the truth. The queen believed she understood him. She believed he was a peaceful man placed into a peaceful marriage. She believed this union was the end of whatever life he once lived. Then the conflict broke out. It began on a silent night when the moons hung close and the air pulsed with their twin lights. The alarms echoed through every balcony and tower. The outer defense grid reported an unknown fleet approaching from the dark edges of their star system. These were not traitors or allies. They were the Dominion, a ruthless expansionist, force known for swallowing entire systems in single strikes. The queen rushed toward the command hall. Her advisors poured in behind her, their voices sharp with fear. As soon as the screens lit up with the sight of the Dominion ships advancing in waves of black metal, she felt her breath catch. This was no small conflict. This was a declaration. The palace guards ran through the corridors, preparing for battle. Aran stood at the edge of the great balcony, overlooking the clouds. When he heard the alarms, he turned, sensing the sudden shift in the air. The queen saw him as she passed and expected him to remain behind in safety, but he followed her. Inside the command hall, the tension grew thick. Commanders reported incoming strikes. Ships were moving in tight formations. The Dominion demanded immediate surrender, or they would erase Athelion from orbit. The Queen issued orders. Activate defense lines. Deploy the home fleet. Prepare the planetary shields. Advisors locked into their positions, scrambling to counter the Dominion's aggression. Aran watched quietly from the back of the hall. A commander pointed toward him and whispered to another. The Queen heard the muttering. They questioned why the human was present during a military crisis. They doubted he could grasp the scale of this threat. Humans were known for courage, yes, but also for recklessness. The Queen silenced them with a gesture. The Dominion launched its first strike. A shockwave tore through the shields. The lights flickered. The palace trembled. The Queen steadied herself and called for reinforcement grids to be raised. Then the second wave hit. This time the shields cracked. flickering like thin ice under heavy weight. The commanders panicked. The Queen held firm. But even she felt the gravity of the threat tightening around her world. Aaron stepped forward. The Queen turned, confused by his calm expression. He asked for permission to approach the tactical console. Her commanders erupted in disbelief. A human touching their defense systems. A human giving input during an interstellar assault. It was unthinkable. But the Queen saw something unmistakable in Aaron's eyes. Not fear, not confusion. Understanding. She nodded. Aaron walked to the console, his hand gliding across the interface with strange confidence. He pressed a sequence of commands no one expected him to know. The screen shifted to a tactical readout of the Dominion formations. Then he spoke in a quiet, steady tone. Their attack pattern is rigid. They rely on overwhelming force rather than adaptive maneuvers. If we disrupt their central command node, we can break their formation. The hall went silent. One commander said humans could not have this level of military insight. Humans did not understand Dominion strategies. Aaron ignored the comment. He pointed again. Their central flagship coordinates lie here. If we target this vessel, the fleet will fracture. The Queen narrowed her eyes. No diplomat assistant would know this. No peaceful traveler would understand the Dominion this well. She asked him how he knew. He glanced at her. For a moment, she saw a flicker of something buried deep. Something old. Something heavy. He said he had studied conflict patterns across many systems. Nothing more, but she saw the half-truth. When the next Dominion wave struck, Aaron reacted before the systems did. He issued commands to redirect power to shield vectors that were seconds away from failing. He moved with precision, with foresight, with experience. Her advisors stared at him as if a ghost had walked into the hall. The Queen ordered her fleet to strike. The flagship as Aaron recommended. The ships launched. The Dominion fleet tried to adapt. But Aaron's prediction held true. Their flagship buckled under concentrated fire, and the fleet lines wavered. Dominion ships lost cohesion. Several broke formation entirely. A glimmer of hope filled the hall, but the Dominion retaliated with a brutal counterattack. Their second command node activated. A massive cannon charged on one of their dreadnoughts. The blast struck the planetary shield and nearly tore through. Another hit like that would shatter the defenses. Aaron stepped forward again. He requested access to the palace armory. The Queen asked why. He said he needed a weapon. The hall fell silent again. The Queen hesitated. She knew nothing of his combat training. She knew nothing of what a human could do on a battlefield at this scale. But she saw certainty in his stance. He was not guessing. He was not hoping. He knew. She granted him access. Aaron walked out of the hall as the palace shook under another blast. Guards followed him, expecting to guide him, but soon he began moving through the armory with ease. He selected equipment unfamiliar to the guards. He unlocked systems they did not know he could open. He strapped on protective gear that required precise, biometric commands. The guards exchanged troubled glances. When Aaron stepped out, he looked different, not transformed by armor, transformed by purpose, as if he had awakened something he had chosen to bury long ago. He asked for a transport craft that the Queen's breath caught. He intended to leave the palace, to fight outside. She asked him who he truly was. He paused, then he answered in a voice that carried the weight of forgotten years. Before peace I served in conflicts humans no longer speak of. I learned to survive battles no one should endure. When I left that life, I promised myself I would not return to it. I hoped this world would never need to see that part of me. The Queen felt the truth pierce her like cold wind. She had married a man she believed gentle, but she had married someone who held power shaped by war. He boarded the craft. The Queen watched as the engines roared, and he shot into the sky toward the Dominion lines. Commanders shouted in shock. They said a single human ship could not breach the enemy fleet. They said Aaron was committing himself to certain destruction. Then the sensors lit up. Aaron moved the craft like nothing they had ever seen. He cut through the Dominion formation, weaving between laser fire and ripping into their blind spots with impossible precision. He targeted their dreadnought cannon. He guided the craft in a spiraling strike run, drawing enemy fire away from the main defenses. The Queen stood before the screens, eyes wide. Her advisors whispered. This was no diplomat assistant. This was no simple man. This was someone forged in battlefields beyond their imagination. Aaron approached the dreadnought cannon. The enemy fired relentlessly, lighting up the darkness around him. His craft shook under the hits. The Queen felt her heart tighten as she watched him press forward through the bombardment. With one final maneuver, he plunged through the dreadnought's armor and delivered a strike directly into the cannon core. The explosion lit up the sky like a sun flare. The Dominion ships reeled backward, their assault broken. The Athelian fleet surged forward and drove the Dominion out of their system. The alarms began to fade. The screens cleared. The palace settled into silence. When Aaron returned, his craft landed heavily, scorched and battered. The Queen rushed to him. He stepped out, his armor cracked, his face tired but calm. He bowed slightly as if nothing remarkable had happened. The Queen asked why he had hidden this part of himself. Aaron looked at her with quiet honesty. BECA.